Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Career Choice Series webinar entitled Healthcare Law. The Career Choice Series is designed to give law students, young lawyers, and transitioning attorneys a general overview of a practice area and ways to position yourself to get there. The Career Choice Series is brought to you by the ABA Legal Career Center, Law Student Division, Young Lawyers Division, and the Government and Public Sector Lawyers Division. The Young Lawyers Division is here to help new lawyers navigate the early years of their career and law students prepare for life after law school. The Law Student Division offers premium benefits, which includes access and savings for Quimby.com, discounts on bar review programs, up to $50 off West academic casebooks, and a legal ethics bundle that includes a free model Rules of Professional Conduct ebook. Upgrade to premium for $25. Sign up today at abaforlawstudents.com/go premium. The ABA Career Center offers both career development resources and a job board for law students and legal professionals across all disciplines and career stages. Moderating our program today is ABA Career Center member Betsy Munnell. Betsy Munnell is a business development coach for lawyers and law firms. She was a partner, deal lawyer, and rainmaker at Edwards, Engel, Palmer, and Dodge, now Lock Lord, for 25 years. Betsy is a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Law School, where she serves as a visiting JD advisor. She chairs the board of the ABA Career Center and ehmunnell.com. Moving forward, we'll let Betsy introduce today's panelists.
Thanks so much for that introduction. My name is Betsy Munnell, and I'd like to introduce our two terrific panelists today, both of whom have deep experience practicing in the healthcare industry. The Career Choice Series is designed to give law students and lawyers an understanding of the range of industries and sectors you may consider specializing in as you build your practice. More than ever, this was not as much true when I started out as a lawyer, but more than ever, the ability to demonstrate and understanding of particular businesses and particular industries is critical in allowing you to differentiate yourself from your competition. It is something I did as a young lawyer that resulted in my partners and I being able to develop a large national practice in media and communications law, and it really is something I feel very strongly is the smartest avenue to success in the very competitive industry in which we find ourselves now. So moving on, the first panelist I'd like to introduce is Claire Marblestone, who is a senior counsel and healthcare lawyer with Foley and Lardner. Her practice focuses on transactional and healthcare regulatory matters with an emphasis on HIPAA compliance, corporate practice of medicine, provider enrollment, and licensure and certification. She advises hospitals, health systems, physician groups, digital health providers, and healthcare businesses on regulatory and compliance issues presented by telemedicine and telehealth. Claire provides regulatory and transactional counsel to companies specializing in women's healthcare as well. I'd also like to introduce Shilpa Patel, whose unique background spans the representation of health systems and hospitals to serving in-house at well-known health tech companies. Currently, Shilpa serves as the Chief Business and Legal Officer of Kindbody, a women's health and fertility company that's headquartered in New York. There she oversees the legal department, business development, managed care contracting, and strategic partnerships, which is a pretty broad role for someone who got herself a JD and now finds herself doing quite a few different things at this company. Prior to Kindbody, Shilpa was the general counsel at Quartet Health in the mental health space, and she was senior corporate counsel at Oscar, a health insurance company. Before going in-house, Shilpa was a healthcare attorney also at Foley and Lardner. and was named which was named U.S. News's Law Firm of the Year for Healthcare for 3 consecutive years. And before that, a healthcare associate at Garfunkel Wild PC. So let's get ourselves started on this conversation. We've got about half an hour, and we're going to move through a series of slides here to give you just generally a good sense for each of the components of our panelist practices, which, as you can tell from the introduction, are specializing in particular pieces of the healthcare industry, which is a vast and booming industry. There are other places in the industry in which you might specialize, but Shilpa and Claire are able to address a large number of them. So each of you, can you tell me a little bit about what your practice means? What is a healthcare law attorney specifically? What do you do? Shall I start with Claire?
Sure. Thanks, Betsy. So I am a healthcare law attorney in private practice. So what that means is I represent healthcare provider clients, and my particular area of focus is on regulatory compliance and transactional issues. So in my bio, I kind of highlighted a few of the types of clients I mean when I say healthcare providers, but it's generally on the provider side, it's hospitals, health systems, physicians, the clinicians who are providing the care. And the type of work I do for them is helping them really with their business needs, but it relates to the various things they need to do to comply with state licensing laws, with state billing laws, a number of other types of regulatory issues that come up on the state side as well as on the federal side. And then in the event that a provider client finds themselves wanting to sell their business or be acquired by another healthcare provider or another type of business, I do transactional work advising them on that as well. And then sometimes when providers want to engage a new enter into a new contract, be it a managed care agreement with a health insurer or hire a new doctor for their practice, I negotiate those agreements as well. So it's really a broad-based practice focused on the healthcare business and representing healthcare providers who are actually providing the clinical services.
Excellent. Shilpa.
Thank you. I'm kind of going to I'll start kind of broadly, so just sort of what is a healthcare law attorney. I think when I was in law school, the concept of I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare space and be a healthcare attorney. I understood who the clients would be, whether they were providers, doctors, healthcare hospitals, healthcare systems, or payers or vendors. I conceptually sort of understood that, but I didn't really understand the day-to-day. And I think that a healthcare law attorney can be a corporate attorney servicing healthcare clients on a variety of needs. So like Claire just said, sort of on the compliance and regulatory side, on the HIPAA and privacy side, on the contractual transactional side. It's a wide array of matters. And then also on the litigation side, on the enforcement side, that's a whole other area of healthcare law. As a healthcare law attorney today, I've kind of grown. I was similar to Claire, focused on the same types when I was at Foley and Lardner and at the prior firm. I was focused on servicing clients primarily who are providers, doctors, hospitals, healthcare systems, and then I moved from a law firm in-house to a payer, to an insurance company. I went from an insurance company to a vendor, and now I'm at a provider, a company that owns and operates women's health and fertility clinics. So sort of the spectrum of clients in the industry, but the work primarily is really general on the corporate side, doing all of there's a regulatory aspect, a compliance aspect, and then now I serve in more of a generalist role of overseeing real estate and employment matters, and a whole host of other non-healthcare related matters in my role of overseeing the legal department.
One of that's striking, and I like to point out to everybody that one of the fascinating things about making sure that you pick an industry that interests you, a business that interests you, is that there's room to develop, not simply as a lawyer, but into the business aspects of the business you represent or the business in which you work in-house. All right, so let's go to our next slide and ask, to the extent we haven't already covered it, what has your career path been like, and how did you get to where you are at this time? I think, Shilpa, you may have covered some of that. Claire, do you want to get into that?
Sure. So I didn't land at Foley and Lardner in a traditional way that most people land at big firm practices. I graduated from law school and actually interned in a health law program that was at my school while I was waiting to hear about my bar results. And I knew I wanted to move from the Bay Area to Los Angeles, and had started networking with some people I knew in the area, and went to local healthcare bar events that were happening in Los Angeles at the time, and just started meeting people, and ended up getting a job. That was my first job at a boutique healthcare law firm in Los Angeles. And I stayed there for about 2 years. And when I was ready to make a move, I continued, networking with people in the local bar before I really was sure that I wanted to change jobs, and did a lot of diligence that way. And I ended up interviewing at Foley, and have been here, I guess, for the past almost 6 years, or more than 6 years, I think. So that's kind of how I got started. It was really a lot of networking, going to local events, having a demonstrated interest in healthcare before I got my first job, and then working at a place that was known for healthcare are definitely things that helped me break in.
Shilpa, do you
I'm
have
kind
any?
of happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to expand a little bit on I sort of mapped out my career path, having gone from a firm in-house to an insurance company, and then a vendor in the mental health space, and then now at a provider at the clinics. One of the ways in which my role has sort of expanded. So I previously, when I went in-house, went into a legal role at a early stage startup, and that was really an opportunity that I did not realize until I actually was in it, an opportunity to flex outside of legal. And I wore many hats. Like, I was responsible primarily for the legal side and focused primarily on the regulatory side. But given the kind of scrappiness of the company at the time, I did a lot of sort of HR related work. I did some business development, and kind of had exposure to, I should say, in that role, sectors or work outside of legal. And then when I moved into my next role as the general counsel of the Quartet, I oversaw our business development team, which sold our service, or our SaaS product, directly to the insurance companies, which was also, and I think, sales and legal kind of are often pretty synergistic, and so it was kind of a natural fit. And then here at Kindbody, in my current role, continuing to wear many hats, so I might be crazy, I'm not sure, but I focus most of my day, and I think that's a question that's coming up, but a lot of my day is focused on the non-legal work, the more of the business development and strategic partnerships, and then overseeing some of the legal. So some of it is outsourced, some of it's done in-house. But I think that had I not had the first opportunity in-house to understand that there are opportunities to flex outside of legal and kind of position your career growth with these opportunities, I wouldn't have understood that then.
And there's no question that in what you're hearing from both Claire and Shilpa the more you understand about the businesses you represent, whether you're going to specialize in an industry per se or not, the better a lawyer you will be, and the bigger your law practice ultimately, and your success will grow. Yeah, and that means reading, listening, watching the news, listening to the people you work with. It's absolutely essential, and it's also a really fun way to build a practice. And Shilpa's been fortunate and actually been given some business opportunities, but we can all learn a lot about the business without necessarily having that chance. Let's move to whatever anybody can add, just so we can pick up a little bit of minutes that I'm charged with maintaining. What can we add to the day in the life?
This
Question.
is Claire.
Sorry.
I'll start. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the day of my life is usually, I mean, what I actually do in a given day can vary, but it involves things like being on calls with clients, responding to client emails, and then on the more substantive side, reviewing contracts and documents, researching client questions, meeting with my coworkers to analyze client problems. As you get more senior, you get to go to more client in-person meetings. But that's the bulk of my daily life. Sometimes doing fun presentations like this, or traveling to other conferences. That's more of a quarterly or less frequent occurrence for me. Also, doing things like writing blogs or reading up on industry news is certainly a pretty regular part of my weekly schedule. And yeah, so it's a little bit of a broad thing, but it's usually in the office or meeting with clients virtually.
Cool. Shilpa, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just broadly, my days vary quite a bit. As I had said earlier, the amount of time I spend on legal work versus the business side is, I probably spend 25 to 35% of my time on legal and the rest on the business side right now, but that's also because of the juncture of the company and the growth stage that we're at. But I think both when I was at a law firm and now, the type of work sort of varies, but I guess now I'm in way more meetings than I was in a law firm. So I think when you work at companies, you end up finding your days full of meetings and you're trying to get out of meetings to be able to actually get things done.
Well, let's keep that one in mind for sure. All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide, which is, guys, just you don't feel that you have to tell us things you absolutely hate, because there may not be any, but if there are, let us know quickly, since I'd like to catch up a little bit. What do you hate? What do you love? What do you dislike?
I can jump in. This is Shilpa. I love the opportunity to build a company. I love the opportunity to use my legal knowledge base and my experience to apply it towards. I think it's a useful way of thinking to apply towards a number of business issues. And then I think on the challenges side, the more kind of breadth that you oversee, the more work it is. So that's the real challenge.
Exactly. Claire, got anything to throw in here?
Yeah, I think one of the things I love is being able to use my legal skills to help a client solve a problem. And that's usually a combination of legal actual analysis and some creativity in figuring out the best way to get the client the business solution that they are looking for. The thing that I don't like, I think, time crunches are always challenging, and I think they've become increasingly so. And when you're in a client service industry, and I think this is probably true on the in-house side as well, but deadlines kind of are what they are, and it's your job to make that work. So sometimes it can be hard to manage when you have multiple clients with multiple time-sensitive deadlines, but then you get past it and move on.
All right, and as the old person in the room, I chime vigorously in favor of all of the things that Claire and Shilpa have said. To tell you that in the 30 years that I was an industry-focused person, I loved my job, and I hate to say it, but it was not the law, the doctrinal topics that I loved. It was negotiating the transactions and understanding the industry and being useful, both as a lawyer and a trusted advisor. It's thrilling to understand and practice within an industry because it allows you to stop being so linear as we are as lawyers, and in our legal education, it allows you to take part in the world of commerce in which we are engaged as lawyers and not simply be technicians. So I loved it all. I loved it all. So the next question is, as we flip slides, another one where I would just say, throw us out some skills that you think are key in being successful in your work. Who wants to start?
This is Claire. I'll start. I think there's pretty much two skills I would say you should really hone in on. One is your ability to be clear and precise in your communication, whether that be written communication or oral communication. It's important, especially in health law where things are really particular. It depends, exactly what licensing code you're referencing to or what governmental program you're talking about. It's important to be able to be clear and explain those in a succinct way. And then the other skill that is really important is just your interpersonal skills, being able to talk to clients, talk to partners who might be giving you work, talk to people who you just meet on the street to inform them about what you do. You need to be able to be someone that people want to work with. And so you can't just be an intelligent person who is a genius and can do whatever hard problem comes your way. You have to be able to, actually meet with people and interact. So interpersonal skills and clear analytic skills, I think, are important.
Yeah, and this is Shilpa. I'll jump on to what Claire says. As the client now, the working with counsel who provides clear, effective communication that is easy to digest it's the communications that are going to the client is not always going to another lawyer, and so it should definitely be. I think what I would say is one of the skills is providing practical. Oh, sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Practical advice and clear and concise responses. And then and the other thing is just being very knowledgeable about whatever your niche is. So within healthcare, if you end up specializing in telemedicine or HIPAA compliance or whatever it is, being knowledgeable and being an expert in that space.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw on the mention of interpersonal skills by Claire. I want to just add something that's broadly applicable to all of you in any area, which is pretty much all the science supports the notion, we all know this, that people size you up in seconds. And they're looking for two things. They're basically looking to, can I respect this person and can I trust them? And respect is all about competence for the most part, given your background and places you've worked and your obvious natural experience and credentials, they're going to respect you. It turns out that the most important thing about people hiring lawyers and other professionals is whether they trust you. And it's important to understand that because in your interpersonal engagements, the critical component of trust turns out to be, again, from the perspective of the psychologists and other scientists who study this, warmth. So making sure that you build that characteristic and that quality into your work is critical. Okay, that's my lecture on that topic, which is near and dear to me. Our next slide, I don't know whether we've expressed any kind of surprise yet about what it means to be a healthcare law attorney. How about either of you, Claire or Shilpa?
I think this is Shilpa.
No, go ahead, Shilpa.
I think it goes, I sort of touched on this earlier, but when I was in law school, I didn't fully understand that that a healthcare lawyer is really either a corporate lawyer or a litigator focused on healthcare clients, and that there's a lot of different specialties and niches within healthcare law. And I think probably, I mean, since I've been in law school, there's better access to understanding that now. But in the healthcare law space, there are certainly experts in certain types, like I had said, telemedicine, HIPAA compliance, Medicare and Medicaid fraud enforcement, just a lot of different subspecialties, and that I didn't understand until I was actually practicing.
Yeah, the wealth of opportunities to specialize.
I agree. Nothing more to add.
Okay, surprise, surprise. So our last question is a pretty important question. I feel free to speak pretty broadly about this. And that is, how do you build your network, your professional network, and how do you build your brand, your reputation, and establish yourself in a highly visible way so that people will come and come to you for your expertise, learn about you, and you can build your career in a broad and strategic way.
I can start. This is Shilpa. I think this is actually extremely important, and Claire kind of spoke to this about herself personally. The in-house opportunity that I first received kind of fell into my lap, but by virtue of I had written a blog post at my law firm about healthcare startups in the New York area, and a friend of a friend was working at this company and saw the post, and they were looking to bring in an in-house attorney, and so it sort of fortuitously fell into my lap. But I think doing that, being sort of proactive and visible in this space, and then attending networking receptions, introducing yourself to people at companies or at law firms that you're interested in. Today I spend a lot of time. I participate in a lot of general counsel and other networking groups in the tech industry or the women's general counsel network, and it's and attending conferences in the healthcare space, and really meeting people and focusing my efforts on building my reputation and introducing myself to people in the space. And I think it's super important. I think you can do that, throughout your career.
Yes. Claire?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think my first job that I actually had, the way that I got intro to that was he's my husband at the time, or he was my boyfriend at the time, and now he's my husband, but it was his prom date from high school was a paralegal at a healthcare law firm. And he, it was pretty apparent that I was looking for a job at a healthcare law firm. And so she made the connection. So, I mean, that was extremely fortuitous, but it's about being open about what you do, what you're interested in doing, what you're looking for. And you just never know where your networking will take you. Certainly credentialing yourself through blogs, like Shilpa said, or attending conferences or speaking at conferences definitely helps you later on. But early on in your career, you kind of have to go to places where people are talking about healthcare if you're interested in it, and make it known that you want to be in with that crowd.
Right. Go to places where people are getting together, where their clients are convening. Go to places where you can speak or write. Get on LinkedIn. By the way, if you haven't learned how to use LinkedIn to articulate your opinions, to share substantive things, not just to like everything. Just get out there and speak. Talk about things that interest you. You don't have to be highly sophisticated to do that. And begin to develop a brand of expertise there or on any other platforms that are available to you. This is the most important thing you could possibly take away from this webinar, possibly. Build a network, build a reputation. I have two questions, guys, for you before we wind up. One is, what advice would you give a law student wanting to become a health law attorney? So just foundationally, person's right in law school, what would you tell them to do right now? Who wants to take that one?
I can take that. This is Shilpa. I think if there are healthcare law classes offered at your law school, take those. If there are externships, or you can get a summer internship in the healthcare space at a hospital system. A lot of hospital systems accept law students, or other healthcare companies. I would do that, and I would also network and attend the ABA or other sponsored, AHLA sponsored events to meet people in the space. And also AHLA has a young professionals group, and I would join that as well.
Excellent. Claire, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yep, same idea. Admin law is also an important class to think about if your law school doesn't offer a healthcare class, because most of what we do is actually in the administrative law space, so it's important to understand that.
Okay, good. I agree with both of those. We have one other, and I don't know if this has already been addressed, whether either of you had any background before school in healthcare, and whether that had any impact on what you did going forward.
Yeah,
this is Shilpa. Oh. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I didn't actually have any background. I was in law school during the time the Affordable Care Act was being debated, and I went straight through from undergrad, so I really didn't have experience in the industry, but I started paying close attention to it and taking as many classes as I could that my school was offering in the space, and that's how I demonstrated an interest. But I didn't actually, there are people who have clinical backgrounds or doctors in their family or something like that, and
right.
I was just really interested in it.
Great. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes, then I'm just gonna ask each of you whether you have something we've missed covering, or otherwise whether you would sum up your best advice in a minute. No pressure.
I can start. This is Shilpa. We've already said this, but I'm going to keep repeating it. I think networking is the best thing that to do in terms of developing your career, and really being proactive about meeting people, attending the opportunity, attending receptions, joining health law groups. And using LinkedIn, I think that's something that Betsy said it's the source for really, at least in the outside of the law firm space, it's the source of meeting people and finding new talent. And I think I'm on LinkedIn at least a couple times a day, so I would highly recommend you invest in creating a profile and a presence on LinkedIn.
If you need advice on that, there are about 1,000 articles on it. I actually have written one or two, but I don't care whether you read mine. But I recommend getting some advice on LinkedIn, and there's plenty of it. Claire, do you want a minute?
Yeah, sure. I think that one thing we've touched on a bit throughout, but healthcare is multifaceted, and it's a really hard and challenging area of law from a substantive perspective to really feel like you've mastered. So acknowledging that it's wonderful to be interested in the early years of your career, but it's going to take a long time to really feel like you've mastered any particular sector. And so just knowing that when you go in, I don't think that should be discouraging at all. It's actually like a welcome challenge, I think, to those who are really interested in digging in. But just know it's a complicated area. There's so many different facets to it. It'll keep providing you with a lot of different things you can choose to alter your path if you're interested, but know there's a steep learning curve, and that's okay.
And it's one of the most important possible things you could be involved in right now. It's hard to think of many things more important. So I encourage all of you to proceed. If you have questions, put them to our two panelists. Thank you both. Terrific job. And thank you all for attending our seminar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Betsy for moderating, and to Claire and Shilpa for sharing your insights, and to everyone for attending today's webinar. Attend our upcoming Career Development Series webinars, one next Friday, Taking Charge of Your Own Career, and in April 17th, we have Social Media and Personal Branding. Connect with us on social media to receive the latest updates on upcoming programs. To learn more about our board who helps make programs like this possible, check out our leadership page on our website. Lastly, before leaving, please complete our short survey. Thank you again and have a great weekend.